Hello and welcome to this quick start tutorial and rig breakdown of our JiEun rig. So what you're going to do first is you're just going to create reference, and I've got that up here. So you're going to navigate to your downloads or wherever you have the folder kept. I'm going to go to JiEun Final and JiEun Rig. So once that comes up, there should be an execution script that will regenerate UV tile previews. And it looks like her textures are already repathed. But just in case they are not, go to General File Path Editor. And you're going to select the texture file path, repath, navigate to your downloads, which I'm already there. Go to JiEun Textures, Set, Repath, and there you go. So it's repath, but it's still gray. So that's where you go to Viewport Settings and you click Regenerate All UV Tile Preview Textures. So once you've repathed this and you save, every time you open up the scene, we have a execution script that will regenerate it for you. So you should never have to do that unless you're repathing the textures. So just starting from the bottom here, the layout control, we have a varied array of options. And real quick, before I jump into these, I forgot that there is also in your folder, there is what's called tools. So inside of tools, you have your Fkik snapping script. And what that does is if I right click here, it just brings up Maya's marking menu. But if I drag and drop this menu into my viewport, now if I hold down right click, I get IKFK snapping, mirroring, and flipping. So this is a very handy IKFK snapping tool that I highly recommend dragging and dropping into your viewport upon downloading of our rig. Aside from this menu, you have your G pose library. I would refer to the studio library documentation on the internet. Very easy to set up, very easy to use. Once you download it, you just set your project to whatever, and then you copy paste this JiEun official folder into that directory, and you should have your pose library. Lastly would be the picker. We have full support for MG Picker. So if you have your MG Picker downloaded and set up, again, documentation on the internet, go to Open Picker, and it will take you to this .mg picker file. Open it up, and there you go. You have your anim picker all set. In the off case that it does not work upon reference, select a control and hit Get Namespace. Once you do that, all the controls should be working perfectly. So that's just a quick overview of our tools, and let's get to a quick rig breakdown just so I can showcase a few of the features that may be a little harder to find. So we have bin controls. These are just your typical bindies. Secondary controls, which are connected to your bin controls, I believe. They're there. They're just very tiny. So your secondary controls, these are primarily controls you're not going to use unless you're getting a very specific pose, but they do give you the ability to move these kind of in between areas, scale, rotate in between the bindies. Cloth controls, these are primarily for the skirt and the edges of this sweater here. Next we have cloth. So this is a little bit complicated. So let me just turn all of these off right now. And let's go to her technically default outfit, which is pants and shirt. And then we have black collar. There we go. So as you can see, her skin cuts through the clothing. That's because at default we made her body anatomically accurate, but we wanted a little cleaner lines with the clothing on. So we created this squeeze attribute that will mesh her body. If I turn off shirt and I turn off pants As you can see, her body has been deformed to fit the clothing. Now, the limitation to this, which we are working on, and we will have a free update for everyone to fix this, is that this only allows for the shirt and pants to go together, and it allows for the skirt and the sweater to go together, because as you can see, it does not look very good. So if I turn squeeze off, which allows the skirt, and I want to say have the shirt, it does not work because her arms are squished in. So the solution to this that we're working on, and we'll have an update for in the future, is we have a foot squeeze, a leg squeeze, a torso squeeze, and a shoulder squeeze that will all be separate. So if you want the shirt, you turn on torso squeeze. If you have the skirt, you don't turn on leg squeeze. If you have the pants, you turn on leg squeeze. But if you have the t-shirt, you don't turn on shoulder squeeze. So that's going to give you a little bit more flexibility to mix and match these outfits. But for now, we have the shirt and the pants, and then we have the sweater and the skirt that also go with the glass rims and the glasses. We have the headphones, which you can turn on and off. And we have the white collar. So this is technically outfit A, and then outfit B would be the pants and the shirt. And then we have shoes, which go with both of them. So that's just a quick overview of the layout control. Obviously, you have your normal temp and ref. Typically, you want to set this to ref, so you cannot select the geo. So moving on, we have outside layout control, inside layout control. We have our foot control, which has foot roll, side roll, heel pivot, toe pivot, toes pivot, and then we have our spaces. So you have layout control, pelvis. So if I switch this to pelvis space, it is going to follow the pelvis. And if I switch it to COG space, it will follow the center of gravity control. So just giving you a little bit of flexibility in where this follows. Then we have our IKFK, and obviously we have IKFK snapping, so that is super useful. We have our pull vectors. We have our skirt, which is automatically set to follow the majority of poses. As everyone knows, skirts are very hard to rig, but we have included these extra skirt controls that will allow you to get whatever poses you want. Moving up, we have our IK spine, and we have our FK spine, giving full flexibility and use of workflow for whichever IK, FK your shot needs. We also have our tweaker controls for the sweater, and we have our hip elbow controls. Typically these are for rotation only, and it, you know, if you're in very extreme leg positions, you can use it to kind of tweak that crease you get right here to be less crazy. So we have our arm controls. I already showed the IKFK on the arms. We have shoulders. We have neck controls. We have hair controls. Because her hair is so thick, having individual hair controls would have been impossible, so we created this nice IK rotation. So if you're animating her walking or running, you can kind of just slightly, you know, translate, rotate, and get some nice bounciness to the hair. Moving up to the headphones, we have headphone controls, and as you can see, there is a blend shape controlling the hair so that it does not cut through the headphones. But if you remove that, you can zero out. Each one has its own blend shape, which will allow you to remove that indentation. Moving to the face is very standard, very typical to the Leo rig. We have our jaw, we have our mouth corners, we have cheek controls with inflation, we have mid-cheek controls. Now, something that is different from the Leo rig is that she has what's called a flat shape. And that is because whenever you have the Ji rig, she has a very thick lips. So when you open up her mouth, sometimes it creates this odd bumpy shape. Even if you have smooth mesh preview turned on, which I can do right now. Even with smooth mesh preview, sometimes it can just create unappealing shapes when you're trying to do ooze or OH. So turning on this flat shape just smooths that out and allows for a little cleaner ooh shapes. So we also have here mouth control. Translating creates very fleshy, smooth, connected animation. And then you have the outside one, which moves the entire mouth around. We have micro lip controls, macro lip controls, and we have this chin tongue control, and you have your upper lip puff control. So inside we have both tongue and teeth controls. I can turn this off and show you here. We have tongue and teeth controls. And then moving on up, we have nose, nose tip, nose corner, and then very slightly over here we have the very tip of the nose control, just for very, very polishy stuff. We have glasses. These glasses are rotation based, so the pivot is at the back so that, you know, if her face is moving, she's squashing, stretching, you can just rotate and get nice curvature in the face just by moving these glasses. Another difference between the Leo rig and the Ji rig is that we have an inflation on the above lid and lower lid. The reason for that is because the Korean design we were basing Ji off of, we were doing anatomy studies, and Asian anatomy underneath the eyes and above the eyes tends to inflate or push out a lot when blinking. So adding this inflate control when you close the eyes or squint the eyes allows you to create a little bit of inflation, giving a little bit more fleshiness to that very nice pronounced blinking shape. So then you have your typical upper crease, you have lower crease, you have your brow controls, as well as an inner blend shape to create that nice crease, and all these nice little shaper controls. On the outside eye control, we also have blink, and we have a brand new control that we created that is not on Leo, which is called squash and stretch. So if you really want to add some extra squishiness to the eye mask, squashing, stretching here just adds that little extra bit of life without having to manually move all those controls. And then obviously we have the upper head squash, we have the lower head squash, and then in the center we have the middle head squash. So that should about do it for our JiEun control overview. One last thing is we have these neck tension blend shapes, which allows for, you know, the tightening of the neck when you're stressed or pronouncing hard phonemes. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy her. Can't wait to see what you guys animate or pose with her, and happy animating.